next speaker is Dr. RASHIDA ABUSIN. Her talk is titled Influence of chlorsulfuron and 2,4-D on management of Striga hermonthica on sorghum.
Assalamu alaikum. I will take you to agriculture. I'm going to present a paper entitled Influence of chlorsulfuron and 2,4-D on management of Striga hermonthica in Sudan. I will go through the basic premise, the problem, objectives, methodology, results, and conclusion. This investigation was done to see the effects of the herbicides and herbicide combinations on the growth and yield of Wad Ahmed variety, which is a local sorghum variety in Sudan. As you all know, that sorghum is the 5th major cereal crop in the world, and in sub-Saharan Africa, it is the important cereal food crop. But in Sudan, it is the most important one in tonnage, acreage, and utilization. It is cultivated all over the rain-fed areas in a bulk of the country, and the grains are used for consumption, and the leaves and stems are used as forage and as building, and also they are used as fuel for cooking. There are many factors. Some of them are biotic, and the others are abiotic. They constrain the production of sorghum in most African countries, and especially in Sudan. One of these most important biotic factors are called Striga. Striga in Sudan is called locally Buddha. The Sudanian will know that. Yeah. This parasite is a poor farmer's problem, and it caused a total crop loss, and also it destroyed the yield of sorghum, and it prevails where hunger prevails. Unfortunately, it is a poor farmer's problem. In Sudan, the total area, which is heavily infested with Striga, is about 20% of the total area under sorghum. This map shows the distribution of Striga all over Africa, and unfortunately, Sudan is one of the heavily infested countries. This slide shows you a comparison between the seeds of Striga, and maize seeds and sorghum seeds. The black and dusty and very small one are the seeds of Striga. If you compare between the size of maize, which is infested with Striga, there is a big difference between the seeds. Striga is very difficult to be controlled because the seeds are very minute, and they are large in number, and they stay in the soil for more than 20 years. They are, or they will be viable in the soil for more than 20 years. Because of that, the control is so difficult. And it needs a special requires for germination. Striga needs germination stimulant, which is stimulated by the host, whether it is a sorghum or a maize. What you see now is called the hystorium, which is generated by the parasite, and this organ is attached to the host, and it acts as a bridge between the host and the parasite, and then the parasite begins to suck and absorb the water, the nutrients, and the photosynthetic materials of sorghum. This image shows the relationship between the roots of the parasite, which is conjected to the roots of sorghum, and then the absorption of the nutrients begin under the soil surface. After that, some symptoms appear in sorghum, like stunting, wilting, chlorosis, and reduction of a root-to-shoot ratio. This is the life cycle of Striga hermonthica. It begins with the seeds, and then attached to the crop, then penetration, and after that, flowering of Striga, and then threshing of huge number of seeds. Now we come to the methodology. This experiment was conducted at Sinnar area, which is 296 kilometers away from Khartoum. At that area, there is a bulk or huge of Striga damaging the crop for the poor farmers. The experimental area was disc plowed and harrowed and leveled and then rigid. And as I have said before, the sorghum cultivar variety with Ahmad was sown. All these are the cultural practices. Have to go. We have two herbicides which are called chlorsulfuron and 2,4-D. Chlorsulfuron was added with 3 rates, and 2,4-D was added also with 3 different 3 rates, and the combination between 2,4-D and chlorsulfuron was also applied. An untreated control was included for comparison, and the supplementary irrigation was applied when necessary, but the whole period the experiment was irrigated with rain. This is the sorghum variety of Ahmad at an early stage. The treatments were arranged in a completely randomized block design with 4 replicates. This is advanced stage. My colleagues and me, we are counting Striga, advanced stage of sorghum. Here, I'm preparing the herbicides in order to be applied to control Striga. Also, preparation of the herbicides, application of the herbicide. Some measurements are done. For example, counting of Striga and sorghum height, yield. The data were analyzed using GenStat and also using SAS version 9.1, and Duncan multiple range test was done for the means. Now we came to the findings. The herbicide chlorsulfuron in relation to the untreated control was highly significant in affecting and suppressing Striga. You see, the untreated control resulted in 25 plants per meter square. However, chlorsulfuron resulted only on 2 to 4 plants per meter square. But 2,4-D was less in its effective, and the combination between chlorsulfuron and 2,4-D is also less than the results of chlorsulfuron irrespective of rate. For sorghum height, at 45 days, there is a significant difference between the means of chlorsulfuron data, and there is a moderate change in 2,4-D and the mixture between 2,4-D and chlorsulfuron. The table shows the effect of chlorsulfuron and 2,4-D and their tank mixtures on grain yield. It is clearly obvious that chlorsulfuron at the different rates resulted in the highest grain yield of sorghum. However, that is followed by the combination or the mixture of 2,4-D and chlorsulfuron. After that came the 2,4-D alone. In conclusion, 1 minute, okay. We can say that the packages of practices comprising with Ahmad variety together with chlorsulfuron would appear to provide an excellent solution for the problem in irrigated and high rain-fed areas. And chlorsulfuron is much more better than 2,4-D and much more better than the combination between 2,4-D and chlorsulfuron. Here are some photos which are taken during the study. This beautiful and pink flowers are Striga. Thank you.
Any questions?
Sudan is very well known for its agricultural resources. Everybody. And when you read about Sudan, you read about the Nile and you read about the potential that Sudan has, in particular in the field of agriculture. Now your also paper, it is about agriculture and about the potential that Sudan may have to produce at least food. In other countries, if you look back at the last even 200 years history, they even converted the desert into some kind of a fertile land. And here you have a Sudan, a country with so much potential of water and everything that you need. But Sudan failed miserably to produce basically and to utilize these resources. So if you can tell me, for example, why Sudan has not been able to manage its own resources, its own, let's say, agriculture sector. I mean, is there any reason? Is it the government bad? Are the people, are the farmers? Is the system not working? What is it?
Really, you ask a big question. And the first factor is governmental and political. The political have no idea about the ABC of the country. The priorities, they don't, they don't take the priorities. They go to gold and to petrol, where agriculture is at hand. And they neglect agriculture. The second thing is that the right person in Sudan is not in the right place. The right person is not in the right place. So many decision makers are not right. There are some who are much clever than them and much better than them, and they are away from.
What is the name of that one?
My
presentation.
Yeah. Can I add to what Dr. Rashida has mentioned? I think yesterday we discussed this issue during my presentation that they changed the priority from agriculture from 1970s and 80s. We used to import most vegetables to Arab countries, and now we import from other Arab, from Saudi, from Qatar, from this, even vegetables. Also, the problem of investing in land is expensive because we have left only with arid and semi-arid and not fertile soil after separation of southern part. The northern part is not fertile. The soil needs money and very costly to for one faddan. It costs about 200,000 Sudanese pound to be invested to prepare water for irrigation, for management practices, for fertilization, to increase soil quality like that. So they just dropped that and went to the easiest way, to oil industry and to mining of gold. The problem is that all this belongs to other private companies. Most of them are not Sudanese. So this is the problem, yeah.
But if you have a top management of a society, now agriculture, of course, is concerned every single individual. You have to eat at the end of the day to survive.
Yes.
You see, oil may, I mean, you look, oil has been disaster for many countries. You see, and we can learn lesson from at least other countries in order to manage the resources.
This is like this.
The future of the Sudan is basically linked to the land. to the agricultural resources, to the utilizations of water, and to try basically to build development on the basis of the resources that you have. And now you can only serve yourself, but all the Arab countries today, they need the agriculture more than they need the oil. You see, we simply mean that you cannot drink the oil, but if you don't drink water, the next day you will perish. So that's why. So the failure is a disaster in Sudan, seems to me, and is not basically, let's say, taken into consideration, let's say, how to manage the resources in the country.
It's okay. Then
Properly.
your second question?